Good morning. I'm Solicitor Walt Wilkins, and it's certainly my pleasure to be with you today. Today we intend to introduce to Greenville County the new multi-jurisdictional drug enforcement unit. This unit was the culmination and collaboration of the chiefs of police in Malden, Simpsonville, Greer, Fountain Inn, Greenville, as well as the sheriff, Johnny Mac Brown, and myself to come together to take on the huge issue of addressing drug abuse, drug addiction, and drug dealing in Greenville County. About 6 or 8 months ago, this group got together to put together a unit called the Drug Enforcement Unit exclusively to attack major drug dealers in Greenville County. After months of work, collaboration, culmination, many hours working together, we have accomplished that goal. This was one of the goals that I would have liked to have seen starting when I was solicitor back in 2011. And here we are today with the new Drug Enforcement Unit. Drugs are something that has been ravishing our communities since I've been solicitor. It is one of the most investigated and most arrests are made drug cases are. Let me tell you that in our office right now, we have a pending about 1,500 trafficking, distribution, or possession with intent to distribute cases right now currently in our office. As you can see, there's also an opioid epidemic that is in our communities and in the country. This unit is designed to go and take on higher level drug dealers that as a culmination and collaboration of this group. So what has happened is the sheriff, the chiefs of police have all united their narcotics officers into one group. And they will be going and looking for those that intend to distribute drugs in our communities. They will be investigating as a full unit in the entire county. This is a special unit that was created, and we hope to see that it's going to do great things for our community. As I've said many times before, drug dealing and drugs probably contribute to about 80% of all the crime in Greenville County. There's either someone out there who is dealing drugs, who we'll be looking for. There's someone who is high on drugs, engaging in behavior that he wouldn't normally do. Or there's somebody that wants to be high on drugs and is engaging in illegal activity to find money so that they can purchase. So the net result of all the drug abuse and dealing in Greenville County contributes to a significant amount of crime as well as violent crime. This unit has been designed to take that on directly. To give you more background and explain a little more how the unit is going to function and work, I'm going to introduce Chief Hamby of Greer. He is the chairman of the board of the Drug Enforcement Unit. The Drug Enforcement Unit is made up of a board of the chiefs of police in Greenville County, the sheriff, and myself. Chief Hamby is the chairman of that board, and he will lead that board and its directions. The board has then hired a commander as well, and that commander is in charge of the unit. That's the organizational structure of how this has been done. And with that, I'd like to introduce Chief Hamby to explain more about how this unit is going to operate, what its goals are, and how it's going to function. Chief?
Appreciate it. Thank you, Solicitor. On behalf of the Greer Police Department, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the opportunity of our agency to be a part of this task force. This task force is going to make a tremendous impact to our community, I can assure you that. As you may know, illegal drugs are frequently bought on the street. However, the traffickers of illegal drugs are constantly moving around rather than staying static in one place. For many years, or as long as I can remember, our agency has had many successes in the enforcement of drug laws, and I feel that we've legitimately made a positive impact to numerous neighborhoods in our city. Just as legitimate distribution networks exist for legal drugs to be sold, there are also many forms of illegal drug distribution systems in our community. Frequently, our narcotic investigators become involved in investigations that develop a need to continue outside of our municipal boundaries due to the mobility of drug sales. Instances such as this require that our investigators seek the assistance of other agencies who have jurisdiction in other geographic areas due to our limited jurisdictional boundaries. We've been able to obtain that jurisdictional assistance on most occasions, but there are cases that literally fizzle due to the unavailability of resources outside of our agency to drop what they're doing and pick up our case and continue it on, as they are already consumed with their own heavy workload. It's not a cooperation issue, but rather it's a resource demand issue. I would tend to believe that all of the chiefs of municipal police departments standing here today would agree that they experience the same challenge that city boundaries cause. Approximately 14 months ago, Chief Miller brought up the idea of a multi-jurisdictional task force to address the jurisdictional issue of narcotic cases and the resource issue as well. Thereafter, a conversation developed between the sheriff, the solicitor, and the 6 municipal police departments in Greenville County. We were all on board with the concept, and we knew that this idea could provide a remedy for many challenges we face. And we have spent nearly a year working on that plan. We studied a model in York County, South Carolina, that has been in operation for many years, which has experienced much success. And we adapted it, and we customized it for Greenville County. And as a result, we believe we put into place a task force that will make a huge impact on the enforcement of drug law violations at the highest level, and also promote prevention of drug abuse and ultimately save lives. As the solicitor mentioned, a governance board has been created that will oversee the direction of the task force. The governance board is made up of the chief executive of each member agency. The board has selected a commander who will lead the daily operations of our task force, and that commander is and will be employed by the 13th Circuit Solicitor. And at this time, I'd like to acknowledge each member of our governance board and the commander. Of course, Solicitor Wilkins, Sheriff Brown, Chief Miller with Greenville PD, Chief Michael Hamilton, Fountain Inn Police, Chief Brian Turner, Malden Police, Chief Mike Hanshaw, Simpsonville Police, Chief Ben Ford, Travelers Rest Police, and myself, I'm Matt Hamby with Greer Police, and our commander who has been hired to lead the daily operations of our unit, Bart McIntyre. So at this time, I would ask the Sheriff, I'll yield to you. Thank you.
Next month, almost 18 years ago, our country suffered one of the worst terror attacks the world has ever seen. And as you know, on September 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked by unprovoked and cowardly terrorists who wished nothing more than to harm our country. Following these tragic events, the 9/11 Congressional Report issued its findings, and one of the key components was suggested that September 11th attacks may have been prevented if communication between 2 law enforcement agencies charged with defending our homeland against terrorist attacks would have established open communications together to share critical information. Since that fateful day, all law enforcement around has learned that communications is pivotal in the prevention of criminal activity and the protection of our community. Although we serve different populations, we have all the same common goal: unifying proactive enforcement to fulfill public needs. The creation of the drug unit will allow our agency to work in consort with the various municipalities, as you heard Chief Hamby talk about, so that information is available to all law enforcement officers working to combat illegal drug activity and take so many lives. I'm tired of young people dying from fentanyl overdoses. My hope is that the creation of this unit is that together we will achieve more than we could ever imagine, and that members of our community will reap the benefit of this drug enforcement unit. An old adage says or suggests that strength are in numbers. By working in consort with these great agencies, inevitably we will weaken the qualities of drugs in and out of our community by drastic proportions. This time I'd like to turn it over to Chief Miller from the Police Department.
Thank you, Sheriff, Solicitor Wilkins, Chief Hamby, and other chiefs here today. Thank you all for joining us. I want to correct one aspect of the timeline that Chief Hamby mentioned, because when Sheriff Brown first came back into being our sheriff for Greenville County, about one day in, I think, to his tenure, we sat down together to talk through the relationship of police in our community and what we could do to better function. And Sheriff Brown said, why don't we consolidate our vice units? And I said, why don't we tackle a big thing? And meaning that that is a big thing. And it was something that probably before that conversation would have been next to impossible to accomplish. And so I said I need a little bit of time to work through that. And we met again in July of last year. And so when we met, we scheduled, and Solicitor Wilkins walked in the room. I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I have an idea, and you may not remember it, but when you first got here, I told you I really want a multi-jurisdictional drug unit. So we sat down with our teams in that meeting, and we talked through really framing out the whole thing. So I can't take credit for that. It was the sheriff working with me, and it was the solicitor's idea, and ultimately we're collaborating. And that's really what matters here, because to provide the kind of service that we need to for our community, to really do our best, our level best within this county to take the scourge of drugs off our streets, to minimize the harm that's done to the families and to individuals in our community, we absolutely have to work together, all of us. And it even extends beyond just the law enforcement function. But that's what we're here to announce today, is that critical component that is the law enforcement function. And so I'm really, really proud of this team to be able to put aside territory, to put aside priorities within our own organizations and work for the collective good of our community, because that's exactly what this partnership represents. Pleased and proud to work with you, and I thank you for your leadership and efforts in this endeavor. Thank you.
You know, if we really look at the scheme of things, all of us have been working probably on the same source. Together, I want that source. And so therefore, we can collaborate with intelligence and information. It's my pleasure this time to introduce to you our commander of the new Drug Enforcement Unit, Bart McIntyre. Bart, come say a few words.
Good morning. Being raised in a military family and even having a military base named after your family name, being McIntyre Air National Guard Base, there's two things in life that I've learned and held growing up with that name. It's called honor and service. It's an honor on my part to represent the law enforcement executive leadership here, but it's also an honor on my part to represent the citizens of the county and the citizens of the municipalities that we represent. And with that, comes service. I am looking forward to serving both the leadership and the citizens of this county and the municipalities. And my promise to everyone here, the leadership and the citizens of this county, is the men and women of the Drug Enforcement Unit are some of the most elite professionals that I've met in my 40-something years of law enforcement. And with that, we promise to not only honor our service, but serve you 24/7, 365 days a year. We're going to be out there. We're going to be out there attacking the drug issues and the drug problems. We know we need the community's involvement to help us. We ask for that. We welcome that. And we have an open door policy. If there's issues or things that want to be discussed regarding drugs in this county, I am always available to answer any questions that would come. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to the sheriff. And again, my thanks to the citizens and the leadership of this county for giving me the honor to serve everyone here. Thank you.
Anybody has any questions, you can ask Walt. If you have any questions, really, we're open for questions.
Gentlemen, you mentioned that in the past, some cases have hit some snags or had been dropped because of jurisdictional boundaries. Do you have any estimates about how many cases exactly or how frequently this occurred?
Chief, you want to respond to that? On occasion.
It's one of those things where we don't, keep a track list of numbers, but I can just tell you it comes up probably every month in some shape or form. But and I want to stress that the cooperation level has always been there. We have excellent communication and excellent collaboration with all the agencies throughout the county and the upstate for that matter. But there are occasions where it's literally a resource problem, and that's just something we deal with in law enforcement. But we believe that this will be a force multiplier because we're bringing together, as the sheriff said, all of the intel, all of the information we have, and then the actual people who are doing the investigations will work together. And when it's all coordinated together, we're going to be so much more effective and a lot more efficient as well.
When do you anticipate the start of this coordination?
It's already started. It started this week.
Where will this new unit be housed?
We'd have to kill you if we told you. So you don't want to know that.
But I guess it'll be its own
It'd
separate
be in Greenville
location.
County.
Greenville County.
Okay, sure. And it's going to be separate. It won't be in a police department. Or
No,
it'll have its
no.
own facility.
It'll have its own facility. And by the way, SLED has shown an interest in joining. The Highway Patrol has shown an interest in joining. And DEA wants to be a part of it. So this is a collaborative effort of all the people who work hard to make sure that drug use are off the streets in Greenville. So it's going to be a big.
In regards to resources, it is not easy, and it takes a lot of man hours, time, energy to make a case against somebody who is bringing in kilo quantities of illegal drugs into our communities. That's how they get here. And then they're distributed out and then distributed out to those who want to purchase it. And to make that case, you've got to have the resources available to find that person, because that person's in the business, an illegal business, and his commodity is drugs. And he knows that the risks of his business are going to jail. And with that, by consolidating all these narcotics units together, we now have the resources, the continued resources, to take on those guys who want to bring in kilo quantities of drugs into our community. And by doing that, we will then minimize and limit the amount of drugs available for those in this community. And you will see a net effect of less violence and just a better community operation and all. And so this unit is designed to take those guys on. And they're, my understanding, they're doing that right now as we speak. And Bart McIntyre is former ATF, retired, has 40 plus years experience in law enforcement, is going to lead that charge. And we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it the correct way. My office has 3 assistant solicitors assigned to prosecute exclusively the cases that this drug enforcement unit makes, so that we can take on these big-time drug dealers. And that's what we're going to see happening here in Greenville County.
Can you give us a hypothetical of how this unit can be more effective than the system before?
Certainly. There's many times drug dealers don't really care about jurisdictional lines. So if you have somebody in Greer that is selling drugs, they've opened up a house where they sell drugs out of, and they're also moving drugs down to the lower part of the county as well, and maybe inside Greenville City. Well, then you may have 3 different jurisdictions looking and gathering intelligence, serving search warrants on different locations, looking at all other kinds of information to try to put together a legitimate drug investigation and case. And instead of having 3 different jurisdictions with a little piece of information in Greenville City, a little piece of information in the county, and a little piece of information in Greer City, it's now in one location altogether. And so instead of 3 people working a case, now you have 3 people working 3 different little cases. We have 3 people working the entire case.
How's that going to affect charges?
It will not affect charges at all. I don't understand the question.
Well, as far as multiples, when someone crosses over a line, sometimes they're charged
Well, it's jurisdictional issues, and if they're dealing drugs in Greenville County, we have jurisdiction over. We're going, and we can make the case. Then they'll be arrested and prosecuted.
Just to clarify, will there no longer be narcotics units housed in each individual agency?
I'm gonna let the powers that be that answer that question.
Hold on. I got a phone going off. Y'all hold on. There will be our directed patrol units will be working smaller drugs out in the street. So the agency will continue to work drugs. I see this as a big picture. If you look at a octopus who has all these tentacles reaching out. This is what this. Everybody was reaching out. We want to bring all this information together and find that octopus that's putting the drugs in the hands of all these tentacles. Does that make sense? That simply our deputies who run upon stop a car that has drugs, we will continue to handle that. This unit will handle the intelligence from that drug stop and be turned over to them to continue to work in intelligence. So we will still work. The deputies will still work. But the main emphasis is on this unit.
Where's the funding for this unit coming from? Is that going to be from the budgets of the individual agencies?
Let's talk about funding.
Well, everybody came together and put in a certain amount of dollars to kick off the units. Our goal was to reach at least $100,000 in the start-off money for drug buys, for flash money, for whatever it takes. So we've all pitched in and made sure we've got that fund available for them.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, we also pitched in all of our equipment that we currently use in our vice operations agency by agency. So we're not starting it completely from scratch because we've each had our own existing vice and narcotics units, and so we've had equipment to be able to put forward into the mix. Each agency still funds the salaries of its individual detectives that are part of the group, and the county has agreed through the county manager or county administrator has agreed to fund the position for the task force or the DEU commander. So that's the only new position in the entire unit, and that's funded by the county. So we have all pitched in the resources necessary to make this work, and we'll continue to provide in-kind support. Our agencies are many people deep, people who ultimately will filter in and out of assignments in this unit, and so we will continue to support the unit with additional personnel support as it needs based on the kinds of operations it's running.
Do you anticipate any savings from consolidating resources?
I think there could be some savings, some supervision savings, probably first and foremost, but I think we're going to see that over time. We'll just have to look at that over time.
How many officers are going to be a part of this unit?
So I don't know what the count is, 24? 24 in the commander.
So just so I have a better understanding, would these 24 officers be solely functioning within this unit? Would they be sort of wearing two hats or two badges, if you will? Should they be called something else, or is this their sole focus?
Well, this is their sole focus.
Regardless
Yep.
of original jurisdiction?
That's correct.
But they'll still technically be employees of their individual agencies?
Yes.
They will
Right.
be commissioned by me as a unit, which will have county-wide authority.
Go to badge here. Put a badge right there.
Yeah, there's the badge. That's the new badge for it. They will all wear the same badge, will have the same information on their ID tag, Greenville County Drug Enforcement Unit. They'll be commissioned by me as the power to enforce the law. And so, you know, I'll have to tell you this, in all my years in this business, this was the most cordial group of chiefs that I have ever worked with and solicited to set this unit up. There was no bitching, no discord. It was just simply this is what it's supposed to be, and everybody worked together. And I congratulate these chiefs for doing that and the solicitor, because it was something that I dreamed about a long time ago when I was sheriff the first time. To see it come to a fruition is really exciting for me as a sheriff. Thank y'all for all you do.
Any more questions?
Are there any specific benchmarks or goals or a timeline that for this unit in particular? I mean, in terms of amount of drug seized or cases closed going forward?
If you're a drug dealer in Greenville County, I look forward to this unit meeting you. That's it. Any other questions?
Thank y'all.
And I think folks probably available to do one-on-ones if you'd like, if they're available as well.